Welcome to Art with Dianne Mahaffee. Today you will get to do training painting number 5. This painting is a lighthouse seascape painting with sailboats in the harbor. This is a very strong lesson in contrast, which is one of the principles and elements of design. Contrast is light against dark to help us visually see what is happening in a painting. Also, you will learn how to make a flat cylinder shape become a 3D lighthouse. Finally, we'll practice our background, our middle ground, and our foreground to add depth while using watercolor techniques. All right, we have lots to do, so get those paintbrushes ready. Okay, folks, today we are going to do this lighthouse painting, and it has one sailboat back here, but I think we might put 2 back there. It might be a better composition. Otherwise, I've got one lighthouse over here and one sailboat over here. So I could put a sailboat in the distance, and that always makes it nice. Even 3 can look good too. All right, so that's what we're going to work on today. And you need to get your watercolor board, and I wrote the steps down right here, which you can see. We're going to draw first. There's 4 steps to this. So first we have to draw with our pencil. Alright, so I've got my pencil, and I'm going to make my border around the edges. And across the top, just saving a little bit of white. And Hannah is painting right along with us. She's one of my art students, and she's wanting to be an art teacher. And she will be a really good one too. Alright, now I'm going to put one across the bottom here. And then I always start off by doing the lighthouse. Alright, let's look at the lighthouse. It's a cylinder shape, but we want it to become 3D. It's got to be a little bit wider down here than up here for this painting. So, I'm going to turn my ruler at a little bit of an angle and make a line this way, then turn my ruler at a little bit of an angle this way. If you're not sure about this, sketch it lightly so you can erase and fix it without it showing up so much. Alright, so I have my 2 lines, and now I'm going to put a little house, a little building right here. Just a little shape of this building. Alright, I'm going to close up the top, but don't do a ruler straight line. There's a little bit of an arc to it. Can you see how it curved? Alright, then some vertical lines at the top. Another curved line. Alright, some more lines for the railing at the top. Alright, then we're going to put a dome-shaped roof on there. So again, curve it. Alright, here's the dome. Okay, and then a little sphere shape at the very top. Alright, so after you have the lighthouse, then right under the lighthouse, you're going to put a hill that's going to be in the foreground, just a mass of land. So I'm going to come in right here, and I'm going to go up under the building and go down and a little bit up and down again. Alright, so do that. Alright, after you do that, you'll need the ruler again, because you will notice in the painting you have hills in the background, another land mass in the background. So we need a ruler for that. So I'm going to put it about where the buildings, the little building's rooftop is. Now make sure it's horizontal. Okay, and bring it on across. And I'm sketching a little bit harder than I normally would, but I want you to be able to see what I'm drawing. All right, so now I have that line where the water meets the hills in the distance. All right, so now just keep them small. Now these are not mountains. They're hills. Keep them small, but you want them to kind of go up and down. All right, after you do that, it's time to do a little sailboat, or 2, or 3, however many you want. All right, I'm going to put, a lot of people say, I can't draw a sailboat for anything. It's 2 triangles in a painting. All right, so, and make sure the sails overlap that greenish landmass we're going to get back there. 2 triangle shapes. Now I'm going to erase out the little line in the middle because the sailboat is in front. Alright, I'll darken it a little bit more so you can see it. And under the sails, straight line, diagonal line, diagonal line. So there's one sailboat right there. Let's put one way back in the distance. Little triangles. Straight line, diagonal, diagonal. How quickly can you draw a sailboat? Alright, I'm going to erase out the little lines in the middle. Alright, so this sailboat is farther away than this one. So that gives it a sense of perspective and depth. Alright, I believe that's all you need to draw. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Alright, look what I have written down right here. The second thing you're going to do is paint your sky and then paint the water. Now that's one thing about a watercolor artist. They really have to pay attention to what they paint first and second and third. And they don't want to get shapes beside each other that are both wet if they can help it. Especially when you begin to paint. Alright, so as you know, I need to prime my sky. Alright, let's focus on this sky now. Alright, we're going to avoid the cylinder that we'll paint over the rooftop. And you'll see why in a few minutes. Alright, so start priming the sky. Everybody loves a beautiful lighthouse. And people love to paint lighthouses. Alright, I'm painting right over here. Be very careful as you go down the side of your lighthouse. Avoid the hills and keep this wet. Alright, now I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to paint right through the rails. But I'm going to come down here right beside the lighthouse. Get a straight line going. It's very important. Keep that water out of the lighthouse, except it's okay, the roof and the railing. Alright, I've got one layer on almost, because it seemed to dry right there and here. Alright, let's put our second layer on now. Alright, so I'm going to start back over here where I was. Go over the rooftop. Come down and be careful. And keep it off the white lighthouse. Alright, It is needing a little more water right here. This is a very hot day. It's in the 90s today. And so it tends to dry quicker. Alright, I'm ready to put some blues on. And that's all I'm going to use for this one. It's just a nice clear day. Alright. Notice I'm going to go right through the rooftop. That's fine because your rooftop's going to be orange later. And certainly through the rails. Alright, it's doing its little watercolor look. More blue. Now I want to contrast this lighthouse. So I'm going to make the lighthouse pop a little more by having some contrast here and there. Now that's an important aspect of this lesson. Contrast. If I've got a blue line going there behind it, you certainly want to put it over here where it comes out. It would be strange not to let that come out just because there's a lighthouse sitting there. Like the lighthouse did something to the blue. Alright, now I usually like to darken my corners a little more because that seems to draw the eye into the painting. So I'm going to come in here just a little more darkness, dark blue. All kind of different values of blue. Okay, now my sky needs to dry, but guess what? Since we're doing in step 2, the sky and the water, I can actually jump down here and do the water now because my land mass, my hills back there are protecting it from running into each other. So that's why it's important to know what you can do. Alright, so we're going to do the water. I'm going to start off by using my big brush. And I may stick with it. Or I may switch to my number 10. Alright, so the first line straight. Then you start having these little white caps. And you know what, folks? When you're doing oceans, if you can use rough watercolor paper, sometimes that's a plus. You can get some really beautiful, frothy looking white caps. Alright, this is leading the eye to the distance. Yeah, I think I'll just keep using my bigger brush. And since it's flat, I can lay it on its side. Be careful about the sails. Try to stay out of those. We want those to be white with a little bit of shading on it. Alright, now I need some more values in here. So I'm going to go back while this is wet. Just kind of pat in some more values. Alright, now keep going. Left, right. Left and right. And try not to go diagonal or up and down or scribble scrabbly around and round because you'll lose that ocean look. And I'm patting in some dark values right now. If you just noticed, I reached over and got some more blue. Alright, continue. Keeping little flat white shapes. I need a little bit of dark value right here. Alright, now I'm ready to go over here. And now I did all that with a 1-inch flat because I can get a chisel edge on it. Alright, I'm going to go over here, make sure I'm going to wet the edge, the tip, come over here. Stay straight when you're getting started and then start saving your little white caps. Keep them flat, keep them small. I'm going left and right again. And now I'm checking my values. All of my values are starting to look the same. So I'll pick up a little bit of blue and pat in some darker values. All right, now keep going. Left and right. Left and right. And now I'll turn it so I'll only get my corner. You can do almost everything with this 1-inch flat. Alright, I need a little bit dark value. Maybe right there. And around that little building to make it pop. Alright, so I'm done with my second part. Painting the sky and the water. So now I want to paint the land. All the land masses. Or step 3. Do your foreground one first, because it's the biggest. And then do your middle ground. Alright, so you don't even have to blow it with a fan or anything. Well, you do have to make sure it's dry, but I'm going to wash out my brush and switch to one I did yesterday. Alright, take a look at that. After you do that, let it dry. And when you do, then you'll come back to it. And this one is bone dry. Alright, so I'm ready to do this one. So I'm going to get my little clipboard. And I'm going to do my land masses. Do my foreground one first. Since it's big and we want it to look like sand and, you know, save you details for later. And with yellows and browns and greens. Alright, so I'm going to wash out my brush, start down here, and prime it. We want those yellows and greens and browns to flow into each other and not be striped like some sort of striped flag. Hannah knew I was going to say flag because I taught her in a lot of classes. I could just let you take over, Hannah. Alright, so I've got one layer of water on. I'm ready for my second layer. See, if my ocean was still wet, it would be bleeding right down here into the land. Alright, I've got 2 layers of water on. So when you got to add yellow and brown and green, always start with the lightest color, which would be yellow. So I'm going right to my yellow, and I'm going to have a sunny spot in the landmass right here, and maybe a sunny spot right there on that little hill. Alright, now jump to my green. Look, I didn't even wash out my brush because it did not hurt that green, and it saved time. Painting with watercolor is all about time. Using every second that you can while that paper's wet. Alright, now I'm going to go to brown, and I'm going to put a little bit of brown here and here. Now look how it's bleeding around into each other. That's the beauty of watercolor, especially on something like this. Alright. Now work it so that you don't get any stripes. See how it looks too striped between the yellow and green? So after I put this brown on right here, I'm going to come back and fix that. Now, fix just that easily. Alright, let me check it. Because the lighthouse is here, I need to put kind of a cast shadow over here. A cast shadow on the left side of the lighthouse, because the light's going to be coming in from this way. Alright, now while my foreground is drying, I'm ready to do my hills in the background. Alright, so I'm going to wash out my brush, and I'll definitely change brushes now because I'm going to a very small shape. Alright, so I'm going to get my number 10 round. Get this brush out of here. Oh, by the way, that reminds me, you never want to just leave your brushes soaking in the water, because the wood will soak up moisture, and it'll swell, and it'll push against that metal ferrule. And then when the brush dries, the wood will shrink back down, and the metal can't shrink. So that's when you'll lose hair, a lot of hair. And it'll, usually the ferrule will come loose from the wood. Have you ever had that happen? I'm sure you have. All right, so here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put green in my background heels. And then I'm going to come back in with the complementary color of green. All right, now see how this is a very unnatural green, and green would never be that bright from very far away. So I've got to subdue it with its complementary color, and by now you should know what the complementary color is. You're right, it is red. Okay, so keep that green wet before you add red. All right, and get in between the cell there. I'm using the point. Notice how my wrist is resting on the table as I paint. That keeps your hand from shaking. All right, so while my green is wet, get some red on. Pat that red right down in an irregular fashion. It'll give it some shading. It'll subdue the greens a lot, and it makes the perfect shadow color for green objects. A little bit more red. Keep control. A lot of people that are learning to paint with watercolor, they just dive into that paint like they're going to paint the town of Lancaster. So have control. It's strong. These praying sets are very pigmented. Alright. See how much more natural that looked than it would when it's just green? Alright, I'm going to redefine this cell shape. A little more. There you go. Alright, I'm ready to wash out my brush because I'm going to get a little bit of green on the other side. Alright, I'm getting my green on here. A little more around that building. Could probably use a little more than that. Alright, what will I shade that green with? Red. You're right, the opposite. Complementary color is opposite color. See how my little building pops out now? A little bit more. All right, I'm going to wash out my brush. I'm going to just hit this for a second down here in the foreground with the fan. Oh, that feels good. A little bit of air, Hannah. Okay. Okay, now there's a few more things we need to do before I can add grass blades down here to the foreground land. One thing we need to do is, we know the sky's dry, so we need to do the rooftop and the cast shadow. So we'll do that right now. Alright, so I'm going to get my round brush, number 10 round. And you can do the rooftop any color you want to, but you know, since there's so much blue up there, I love blues and oranges together because they're complementary colors on the color wheel too. As you see, here's orange, blue, they're right across from each other. Vincent van Gogh used a lot of complementary colors too. Alright, so I'm going to put orange, but any color you want it to be. A little more orange. My brush tip was wet. Come down here. Get it a little more intense, but not too much. This lighthouse is in the distance. All right, now also I'll put some right here. So we'll have some other things in this painting that is orange, not just one thing. All right, while that's wet and that's wet, get its complement blue, and on the left side, just touch it and along the bottom. See how that shadowed it? Just on the left, because the sun's on the other side. Over here, the light. All right, so that's done. All right, so let's do the sailboats. All right, while I've got this brownish, bluish color on my brush, I'm just going to put a neutral color on the sand, on the boat. Any color you want it to be. Make this one a little browner. Doesn't matter, but we do need to do some reflections. So I'm going to wash that out and get a tiny little bit. I think I'm going to switch to my liner brush. This is a liner brush. Sometimes they'll say 0 size, but I love the ones that have long, like 1 inch long hair, because they hold paint forever. And you can sign your signature, first name and last name, without even running out of watercolor. All right, watch. Come down under the boat. And so I've got my reflection there and a tiny little reflection there. All right, rails. We need to do those rails. So notice you don't want to do it like this because your hand's not resting. Sometimes I'll rest my little finger on it or my wrist on the table. So I'm going to come down, follow those pencil lines, and across. All right, and that's good enough. I could actually imply that light up there. Of course, it's turned off during the day. Okay, the door over here, since I have my little brush. Okay, imply the door and the shadows and the sails. Now, don't use black, but almost wash all that out of your brush. I'm going to test it. Still a little too strong. I'm just going to use the faintest little bit of gray I can get on the sails, so they just won't look too stark white. They've got to have some shadowing on them. You know, they fold and twist a lot of times. All right, so that's almost dry enough to do some grass blades. I'm going to hit it with the fan a few more seconds, and I'm going to add some birds. And we're almost done with this. All right, birds. And then I'll come back and do the grass blades. Hannah, that's looking marvelous over there. Look how hers is looking already. Isn't that wonderful? Wonderful student. Oh, we've got to do the cast shadow on the lighthouse. Hannah, don't let me forget anything. All right, so I'm going to get some black and look for a light spot. I've got lots of good options. I think I'll put a bird right here. Make a dot, go to the dot, and then go to the right. Go back to the dot and go to the left. All right, again, I'll put a bird here. I don't know. I think I need one near the lighthouse. Dot. Swoop to the right, swoop to the left. And I'll do one more. One lower. Right, left. See how nice it makes the birds look? Please don't make your birds like this, because that doesn't look natural. Alright, let's do the cast shadow because this lighthouse is not going to look 3D. The rooftop does, but it won't look 3D unless we put the shadow on the side. Alright, so here's the way I'm going to do it. We want that to be the softest color over here. So soft. And even on the left side of the building. So we're going to prime it. That will ensure we keep it soft. Alright, and it'd be shaped about like this. Alright, and fill it in. Now that's only one layer of water. So let's put another one. Alright, I've got a nice curve going on right here. I have 2 layers of water. Alright, so I've got it primed and I've been adding a little bit of blue, just a tiny bit. You can see I'm putting a little bit more. Keep it very soft and a little bit of orange because that orange kind of unifies with the other part. Now see how 3D that looks? Alright, and I'm going to do a few more grass blades. I'm using this brush because the rest of my foreground is dry now. And I'll add some here. Remember to go up, 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 up. Put them in patches. I can even do some sea oats right here. And maybe another sea oat. And just have fun with it. And then sign your name. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll watch Art with Dianne Mahaffee again next time.